partners like the TDP and JDU. Well, what is this going to mean for India? What is this going to mean for India's economic reforms? Joining us now is Christopher Clarey, Associate Professor at the Rockefeller College. Mr. Clarey, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. It has been an unexpected verdict, to say the least. If you go by what the BJP was projecting or what the exit polls were saying over the weekend, a very different story playing out for the BJP and for the NDA. An upset for the BJP not being able to get to that halfway mark on its own. The NDA, of course, closer to that 300 number. And it is a reversal and a reclamation of sorts for the Congress party. Of course, a long distance still to go. But what do you make of the election verdict?
You know, most of us that are observing the results are stuck with a bit of whiplash after the exit polls suggested Modi might be in reach of his 400-seat goal. Instead, he'll need his coalition partners, it appears, to cobble together a majority in the People's House. That's a big change. But outside observers have become increasingly comfortable with an India that has coalition politics. India has shown for the last several decades that it is able to thrive in coalition, and the BJP has some experience. It's a little perhaps rusty on how to manage a coalition under these circumstances, but it will remember it soon enough. So I think this will not be a major change in how outsiders view India, though I think Modi, in projecting such ambitious hopes, may have misplayed the expectations game.
Well, you know, that was nicely put, a little rusty when it comes to dealing with coalitions, because it really hasn't been a coalition for the last 10 years. It's been very centralized power, and it's been the Modi government. It has been about the Prime Minister on the ballot box and the Prime Minister making that a very presidential form of election as well. Mr. Clarey, coming back to you, a coalition led by the BJP, which at this point in time seems to have about 240 seats, so will be the single largest party. Nevertheless, what's the expectation, in terms of a reprioritization perhaps of the reforms that have been undertaken so far?
My expectation is that ambitions have been quite narrowed in the last 24 hours. All eyes turn to state assembly elections in Maharashtra later this year. I think the BJP will be intensely concerned to find a way to reverse the setbacks it's faced in the Lok Sabha election so far. Coalitions constrain what governments can do. Sometimes the markets like that, because governments can be predatory when they are unconstrained, and the markets like those checks and balances for the center. But I do think we will have a very narrowed economic reform agenda. The possibility of amendments to the Constitution, as the Chief Minister of West Bengal was just saying, are out of reach now for this coalition. This will be a smaller stakes game that's being played as the BJP tries to figure out a way to reverse the setbacks from tonight and looks forward to important state assembly elections over the next year.
Yes, important state assembly elections are coming up, and you're right in pointing out that Maharashtra, where you actually saw two parties being split, the Shiv Sena being split and the NCP being split, and that hasn't worked in favor of the NDA. In fact, it's worked against them, at least as far as this election is concerned. So that is going to be a point of concern. But Christopher Clarey, the other unexpected reversal for the BJP, and this is nobody was expecting anything like this, is the state of Uttar Pradesh and what has happened there with the resurgence of the India Alliance, particularly the Samajwadi Party. What do you make of what has happened in UP?
The Prime Minister is very popular, but ultimately he's one man. There's 543 constituencies, and UP, I think, shows that. And sometimes there's very local concerns, but also UP, I think, reflects troubles that afflict lots of constituencies across India. Unemployment, especially for the youth, is a serious concern in UP. Inflation, which is a problem globally, not just in India, is a serious concern in UP. And then the local coalition politics, I think, which sometimes have been favorable to the BJP in prior elections, went against the BJP this time. And those combination of, I think, economic headwinds that were felt more acutely in UP than some other places, combined with the vagaries of putting together constituency by constituency coalitions, those shifted in a way that was unfavorable in the BJP, it seems, in the last night of results.
Yeah, that's right. So, Christopher, in terms of the big takeaways from the election result, we've also got two assembly elections that we've seen the incumbents being dislodged in Orissa, Naveen Patnaik's reign ending, the Biju Janata Dal making way for the BJP, and in Andhra Pradesh, Chandrababu Naidu making a comeback and Jagan Reddy out. What do you make of those two states and the way that they have voted?
There's the delinking of the assembly elections, the Lok Sabha elections, mean that there's always this stream of assembly results, some of them that do end up coinciding with the national elections. And that mosaic means that even in a night where there are some setbacks for the NDA, for the BJP in particular, there are also some positive signs that they can grab onto of future green shoots that might grow into larger plants later on. I think we are in a situation where there's not overwhelming BJP dominance, and that's going to make these state assembly results more at the front of the mind of political professionals in Delhi in the coming months. And when I was in government previously, before I became an academic, there was a sense that sometimes India would have to wait for those state assembly results before it could make big choices. And I think we will again see the caution induced by a nearly permanent campaigning mode for India that is likely to set in for the next year. So I think these results, we saw the India Alliance leaders viewing them as a clear rebuke of the BJP. But I think instead we're in kind of muddied waters, and we're going to get some small ball politics for a bit as a consequence.
Yes, I would imagine that would be the case. You do have aspirational leaders, and there is space now for them to be able to exert their aspirations at this point in time with the BJP tally below not just 272 but below 250 as well. So it does give more leverage to the allies, to partners. But Christopher Clarey, you were talking about a narrowing down of the ambitions as far as reforms were concerned. One of the big ones that the Modi government had promised was one nation, one election. With the electoral result that we're seeing today, do you think that that's now a thing of the past, at least for now?
Yes, I suspect that is a thing of the past, that we that was always going to be an ambitious reach, and there's certainly a logic to it. We just exited a very difficult and grueling 40+ day election. It is perhaps a little unhealthy to have elections so frequently that it makes it hard to have periods of governance in between. So the wisdom of the reform makes some sense. But in this climate, I think being able to link the assembly and national elections is going to be very challenging. That was already going to be a pretty daunting task, which is why they became delinked in the first place. I think the results will also lead people, as you were indicating, to think about what comes next. The prime minister is healthy, but he's in his 70s, and by the end of this term in office, he will be in his late 70s. And I think a lot of attention will now go to considering who will be the next BJP leader after him.
Yes, all of those questions will require answers. I suspect we're going to have to wait to first see what happens as far as government formation is concerned before we talk about succession planning within the BJP. But before I let you go, Mr. Clary, a quick word on the Congress party, of course, improving its tally significantly over 2019, almost at the 100 mark, but nowhere close to, what the Congress was and what its relevance was historically. But with this performance and with Rahul Gandhi having steered the Congress to this performance in many ways, how do you see that?
These are early days. I think we'll have to see seat by seat to try to figure out what happened here. It appears that the BJP vote share, according to the initial results, stayed very similar to the 2019 numbers. What's happened is we've had a increasing strike rate for Congress in India, and so the BJP gained vote share modestly in parts of the country that it didn't win, and then it lost vote share in some of its core areas and faced crucial setbacks as a consequence. So this doesn't seem to have been a dramatic change in the relationship of the Indian voter to the BJP, but we have seen a successful strategy, or perhaps just a happy accident from India's perspective, that they've been able to convert votes into seats at a rate that is more meaningful than they were able to in 2019 when they suffered such a historic defeat.
Yes, early days, of course, this election result will have to be digested not just by the ruling party, but of course by the opposition as well. Rahul Gandhi and Mallikarjun Kharge saying that they cannot reveal much, but indicating that talks are on at this point in time with potential new allies. So it's game in play at this point in time, though the BJP and the NDA do have the clear edge. Christopher Clary, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Appreciate your time. We are going to take a break here.